Good morning to you. Apologies as we're starting a couple of minutes late this morning. I hope you can join us. We had a little bit of a technical glitch, but everything's sorted out now. So if you're joining us now, very welcome. If you want to watch the replay after this, you want to ask a question now or later, reach out to us. You can please do so in the chat or the comments below, and we'll be sure to pick it up and respond to you as we go along. So my name is Joyce from Marketing Tech. We're a digital marketing agency focusing on SEO, on LinkedIn, and mobile technology for SMEs. So really pleased that we have here with us today Shilpa P. Shilpa is my training partner. And she's also a business growth coach and a serial entrepreneur as well. Hi, Shilpa.
Hello, Joyce. So the minute you said glitch, my headphones all of a sudden went back. Until then, it was complete blackness. The world
Oh,
of technology. It's wonderful.
sorry about that. Oh dear. Okay. Well, we always have these. We all have these days. You just know you can plan all you want, but somehow things can go wrong. So I just want to say again, and I've said this before, Shilpa's slogan, and you might see her slogan on LinkedIn, and Shilpa's very active on LinkedIn. Her slogan is Love Mondays, Free Fridays. And Shilpa embodies this way of living and working, and she won't hesitate to say no when she needs to. So to me personally, I think Shilpa embodies the title of our LinkedIn Live today. And so she's here to share with us some of her tips for doing that, for ditching the time wasters, so to speak.
Thank you, Joyce, for inviting me and having me today. I just need to let you know that I can't actually see you, but I can hear you fine, and I understand you can see me. So just know that
Yeah,
I won't
we
have
can.
any audio, any written cues at all. Just audio.
If there's any chat, not to worry, I'll let you know. If any
Yeah,
comments or questions coming up, yeah, I'll let you
great.
know. Yeah. So I'll let you get started, shall I? About ditching time
Wonderful, wonderful.
wasters and
Time
what
is the
what what
most
are what's
precious
the
commodity.
advice you would give us for that?
How to manage it? How do you get more done? The vast majority of people feel overwhelmed. They don't get everything done on their to-do list, and they are constantly struggling and stressed. I think the ones lives and more sorted lives. And I think the main reason I was forced to look at my own timekeeping was that I burnt out. I was absolutely doing way too much in my life. And one day I found myself lying on the cold kitchen floor, and I thought, oh my God. And I had burnout. In those days, it wasn't actually diagnosed. It's only recently the
Mm,
World Health Organization has given it a diagnosis.
yeah.
But it happens to the best of us because
Mm,
it's something that can really take away. Um, when you want to ditch the time wasters, you've got to go a little bit beyond
yeah.
and look at actually your system, your life, and how you run your system. I can provide lots of productivity tips. I can provide lots of ideas on what to do. But you first of all got to sit down and look at your work, your life, and understand how you want to live it. What's your vision of an ideal week? I love taking Fridays off. My book's all about that. Love Monday, Free Friday. But it doesn't have to be Friday. It's more about loving the work that you do and having sufficient time off to enjoy life, to do the things you love to do. Is it sailing? Is it spending more time with your family? Is it squeezing your children more? All these things that the modern 21st century perhaps doesn't allow some of us to do.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to share with you, Joyce, a ritual that I take myself through at the end of every week. And at the end of every week, I look at my calendar. My assistant looks after my calendar. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want a visual map of what my next week's looking like so that I can prepare energetically and
Mm-hmm.
in my head and just be aware. And I sit back and I actually look at it and I think to myself, first of all, is every single one of these meetings important? Of course, my fee earning meetings, my client meetings, they're an absolute no-no. I'm sacred. I'll never change them. But all the other meetings that our lives get full up with, I ask, is this absolutely important?
Mm-hmm.
And when you consciously sit down and you go through your week like that, you may often find that you've got so many meetings in there. I mean, gone are the days when we were in offices and meetings. We're vast majority of all Zoom meetings, and we're jumping,
Mm,
which is enough of a burnout
yeah.
itself. That's the first thing I do. The second thing I do is I look at what I can delegate. I have two assistants, and in my tasks and in my calendar, I try not to keep a task list. I try to keep a calendar which is color coded and extremely complicated.
Hmm.
So if something's not on my calendar, it's not going to get done. But if it's in my calendar and I've got time allocated to it, then it's working. I also keep free time in my
Hmm.
calendar when I can just sit and think. And that's a really important thing. Is there something that you could delegate? Is there
Yeah.
something that you could have someone in your team, one of your assistants, um, do? And is it absolutely essential for you to
I think
do?
that's a huge, sorry to interrupt you, but just wanted to highlight that's a huge step forward in itself, just simply color coding our calendars. Could you take us through, maybe, Shilpa, very quickly, how you color code them? What sort of things do you
Yeah,
color code into, without giving too much detail, of course, but yeah.
of course. There'll be a little bit of detail because I think
Mm,
that's when it sets up. And I can't screen share, but I'd be happy just to flash my calendar up and the amount of colors in there. So there'll be meetings which won't change, and there'll be out of office, of course, which won't change.
mm-hmm.
Um, with out of office, I keep my traveling know when I need to leave. Otherwise, how many times have we just missed a train? I take an
Yeah.
overland train, so if I miss it, I often have to wait half an hour. It's not like jumping on the tube, where they're coming every 2 minutes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I represent two boards. Do I have a board meeting? Do I need to prepare for that board meeting? And then that
Mm-hmm.
time's put in the week before. It sounds really structured, but it's not that structured. It's just prioritizing buckets of time to things to make sure that they get done. There's some free time in there, there's some lunches in there, and everything has a color so that I know if I have to be in an office, I have to be off site, I have to be on a train, I have to be in my car. I actually understand what I'm doing and how I'm doing, and how that my productivity. Am I writing something? Do I need to think about a business plan and a business strategy for a client? So that's going to mean some time in my head when it's either first thing, or I've had some time to go for a walk, or I've got 2 hours to just sit and work on that relaxed. Because it sounds like I'm packing lots in, and I do, but the sort of
Mm-hmm.
work that we all do today, which is all in our heads, we want to have more time to think. I have a client who golfs every single day, every whole morning. That's 5 days a week. And he says that's his best time because that's when he thinks.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he has his strategies. He's a marketing person, and that's when he gets his ideas. And he said, well, one idea on a golf course that I've come up with that I execute the next day is my absolutely amazing campaign for my client, all sorted. And then I dribble that down into my team and we work together on it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so I guess we are sometimes at our most creative when we're relaxed and we're calm. So I guess just trying to understand how you color code your calendar, if I may. So you would color code those that would bring income. You color code those that give you time off to relax, apart from the logistics of getting to places and things like that, which you factor in time. Am I right? So things that bring in income,
That's
things to
correct.
delegate.
Zoom,
Mm,
yeah.
okay.
Delegation is done before then. So if I'm looking at my calendar of tasks that I've done, have is there something that I can ask someone else to do for
Mm-hmm.
me? Um, Another color would be Zoom meetings. We do a lot of Zoom meetings in a day. Um, can I bring them closer together, or do I need them pushed apart a little bit more? What's my day like?
Mm-hmm.
I think we've all had these days when we're jumping around like a buzzy bee, and we've got so many things to do, and we feel we haven't achieved
Mm-hmm.
anything. And if we can keep gaps between that productivity and keep some of that productivity according to your own preference.
Yeah.
I like to do my Zoom calls all in one morning. So maybe, I'm still at home for those
Mm-hmm.
meetings, and I can sit in the garden, and I can finish all my Zoom calls with a nice coffee. I like to do my meetings off-site together. So if I've got two clients together, that cuts out travel time for me. How can we be more productive with our organization, with our thinking around the tasks, and actually taking a bird's eye helicopter view of what we're doing
Yeah.
each week, even each day. It's rude to cancel meetings, but sometimes you've got an absolutely packed day and you've got two meetings in there which are not necessary, and there may be catch up calls, or maybe you've put in a one to one with
Yeah.
someone. It's going to really bother your productivity in that day. But review it. And if you reviewed it a week before, so I work with an assistant, and we both have a system of what's going to work and how it's going to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at my week, I can tell how much of the week I'm
Yeah.
away, how much of the week I'm in my office, and how much I've got to think and plan, and have I got time for tea and cake.
You always have time for tea and cake. No, I like that actually. Yeah, I like blocking up your time just for Zoom calls because they do suck up time and they do distract as well. I'm not saying that, Zoom calls are bad. No, they're not, but they do distract if you have too many of them dotted throughout the day. Is that right? So, yeah.
Yeah, you need to work out what works for you. If we take some lessons from most successful
Mm,
people, maybe a billionaire is a good idea. Billionaires have made lots of money, so they've created businesses which are effective and profitable, and they often have staff and teams
mm,
and resources to support them in that.
yeah.
And if you look at how they manage their time, they're very good at managing their time, and they're also quite ruthless to managing their
Mm-hmm.
time. So when you're talking about ditching the time wasters, I alluded to that
Mm,
earlier, in that when you're looking at your week, if there's something that's not going to impact
yeah.
you and it's not going to be effective for you, don't feel bad saying no. No is a full
Yeah.
word. And a lot of people do feel bad saying no because we have relationships to maintain. Perhaps we've said to someone that we would catch up with them and it's going to take up time. But if it's not fitting your
Yeah.
week, your month, your quarter goals,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to say no. Absolutely okay to say no.
Definitely, I totally agree with you. And we can always say no in a nice way and explain why we're saying no. So, yeah, I totally agree. So, you mentioned something earlier on about CEOs and leaders and how they get more done in less time than everyone else. So, there's a reason why they're leaders and why they're CEOs. So I'd love to delve into the archetypes that you mentioned as to how they manage their time and how they manage their teams. Could you expand on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing that really helps is coming up with a mindset that's totally completely uh, focused on achievement. And
Excuse me there.
when you have that when you have that clarity on the fact that you want to achieve specific goals and you work backwards to achieve those goals, then that's managing your time. You have a mindset of productivity, a mindset of achievement,
Mm-hmm.
and a mindset of making the most of your time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So my mindset's one of the first things that you want to do. And then applying principles of productivity. Many people use the Pomodoro technique, which is where you're looking at in 40-minute chunks. It's really effective. It takes time to implement and use, but it actually works because it's channeling your energy to create a task and complete that task and finish it. And I think that's quite phenomenal because we've all had days. I had a week last week where nothing got done. My phone kept ringing. I had lots of things to do. I was following my calendar, but I probably had too many things come in between. And
Mm-hmm.
that often means that you're not achieving the absolute impact that you want to have in your day, in your week, and in your quarter.
Mm. Okay, so coming back to the CEOs and the leaders who lead teams, organizations. So you mentioned earlier, and I quote here, that rather than spending a little time on a lot of things, these CEOs spend most of their time eliminating the single biggest constraint to the growth of their business. And they may play one of five different roles. So there are five architects that you mentioned. Could you take us through that and how they what makes a good leader, in other words? And they take different roles, I suppose. So it could be different roles at the same time, or it could be, a role at specific periods of their leadership. Am I right? If you take us through that, that would be really fascinating.
Yeah. Remind me what that was, Joyce.
So there was the leader, the architect, the coach, the engineer, the
Ah,
player.
right,
So these are
right.
architects of leadership.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So um, you will often find that leaders, when I came into business, I read a lot of books on how people were successful and what they were achieving. And you'll also find that leaders will either be one of a certain type, an archetype of a leader. And
Hmm.
are they going to be managing and leading? And is that something that's what they specialize in and what they focus in? Or is their style more of sitting back and coaching and allowing their teams to prosper and grow through the coaching, through the mentoring, through the support and the guidance, which is a complete different style from the leader who's at the top, perhaps, or in management teams, charging and moving forward. And they're the two that are most popular, Joyce, that I found, certainly in
Hmm.
my work, working with CEOs as well.
Hmm. So the architect and the coach. The
Yeah,
coach and the architect who, okay, so it's more directive in terms of their leadership.
yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So how do you apply these to our life as business owners? How can we apply this in real life, knowing that there are these archetypes of great leadership?
Yeah.
Any practical tips for doing that?
I would really recommend taking a bird's eye view of your diary every week
Mm-hmm.
and applying these principles. What can I ditch? What can I delegate? What can I keep? And if you're a solopreneur, if you're a small business owner, that's tough because that's
Mm-hmm.
your work, and you often think that's everything that you're doing because that's really what that's about. But we're talking about how to ditch the time wasters and how to be more productive. So, obviously, if we can create more pockets of time and space in life,
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't want that? Who
Yeah,
doesn't want that?
definitely.
So, that's a difficult one, actually understanding what to ditch. And if you get used to asking yourself questions as to, is this fee earning? Is this moving to being fee earning?
Mm.
Is this a good network opportunity for me? Is this going to benefit my business? When I work with business owners and I look at their the first thing they'll say to me is time management. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of the pillars of business success: time, profit, growth, and team. And that's one of the first things they say to me. And when you look at their own individual time and then teach them how to manage their time and their team's time, it becomes a totally different market, totally different market. And the key there is actually understanding, what can I get rid of? What is a time waster for me?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have lots of supplier meetings, we have lots of meetings full stop. Are these meetings absolutely necessary? And another thing that I like to do, and you'll know that, Joyce, because you and I do that when we work together, is I don't like doing meetings that are 1 hour. If you've got 1 hour set for a meeting, often that meeting gets elongated. How about you have a meeting for 45 minutes or 20 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
You'll often find a 20-minute meeting, you have an agenda, you will have thought through what you need to discuss because you've only got 20 minutes to complete those
Yeah.
actions in that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be laser focused and you will get through the elements of that meeting. And then if there's anything outstanding from those meetings, you can then revert to your
Yeah.
project management tools
Mm.
and if you're prepared, then those questions will have been asked, yeah, in that meeting.
Yeah.
My second favorite is always, what can you delegate? How can you utilize the small teams, the large teams, and really move tasks across? And in the world of AI, how much can we use technology to make us more productive, more impactful, and more effective? Technology is phenomenal, and I find so many business owners haven't fully embraced it. Either they haven't had the opportunity, or they've really not had the space to come in and
Yeah.
implement technology. Is
Mm-hmm.
it project management systems? Is it using AI more? You've got so many tools today that let you do customer service and initial sales and I'm talking about small business owners, I'm not talking about massive corporates, using chat GPT and customer
Hmm.
service bots. I mean, that frees up an individual's time significantly. So look at technology in your business. What one tool can you adapt, implement? Because we all know tools take time to learn.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, one of the biggest challenges that we have to go through.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I also would add to the calendar thing. I think we can start by looking at our calendar to see where we spend the most amounts of time and where might be problem areas. Perhaps that might be the place to start. Just looking at how we spend our weeks, our days, and our weeks. And now I want to talk about one of the things. So for me, if I can tell my personal story, for me, one of the biggest time wasters is basically lead generation. Spending time by lead generation, I mean spending time trying to drum up business, and I had to do this a lot. I still do this a lot in order for my business to grow. And I realized that. There's a lot of time that I've spent on things that really aren't necessary. So I'll give you an example. One of them is attending networking events, for example, and going to places where my ideal clients weren't really hanging out. So I may spend a lot of time at lunches where they were really, really enjoyable, but they were not really getting me any sort of business at all. So it's more like making friends places where I go to make friends, not really to get referrals or to get introductions or to make businesses there. Are you still there, Shilpa?
You can't see me?
No, I can't see you now.
Oh
Um,
dear.
yeah, it's okay. We'll just go on, shall we?
Okay.
Unless you can
Yep.
fix that. Yeah. So I'll just go on to say, yeah. So that's one time waster, which I didn't used to track. So networking events, that's one of them. So now I've become a lot more strategic because I measure. I actually measure the way. Oh yes, you're back now. Hey. So yeah, so I was saying time wasting activities are attending networking events which weren't really helping the business. Enjoyable, but not really helping the business. So it's the ability to identify why we're there, understand why we're there, what we're there for, and to track and measure the activities, the time that we spend in these activities. So the other thing which wasted a lot of time for me was looking at my sales pipeline. So actually putting people and companies into my sales pipeline when they were never ever going to buy, for example. So I put them in my pipeline. They just messed up the pipeline. Why did I say that? Because I didn't qualify them in the beginning of the process when we first have started having conversations, and I put a lot of these leads into a pipeline which shouldn't have been there. So I've learned not to do that now because for many of these people, they're not in the market to buy. In any case, a lot of these companies were having conversations. So it's the ability to qualify them that is a huge, huge time saver for me, and I can't begin to even describe the feeling I get when I look at my sales pipeline and I realize it's not as messy as it used to be. And I just have to follow up with 10 people, for example, rather than to follow up with 100 people, most of whom are never going to buy. So having a clear pipeline, less leads, but more qualified leads has been a huge time waster for me. And I think we've lost Shilpa now. I'm not quite sure if Shilpa's coming up next. So yeah, so that's I'll just go on, and if Shilpa joins us, then she'll join us. If not, then we just have to, I suppose, bring this live to a close. So I'm just going to move on and talk about. Um, Next thing I'm going to talk about is our focus group session. So we're going to be talking about some of these time wasters that have the ability to suck up a lot of our time as business owners. So a couple of things that we're going to cover. These will be some of the 8 strategies that we will cover to help us grow the business. So it will be strategies such as how do we identify our market dominating position, what makes us different from our competitors. The other thing is how to identify small gains in the business that we can make, which can and will substantially increase our profitability. So Shilpa will actually talk us through some of these small gains that we can make to our business. The other thing Shilpa will discuss is to talk about price increases. How do we justify price increases? What are the things we can do when we raise our prices? And I don't mean just to raise our price, but raising our prices would involve taking a couple of steps to actually get to raise our prices and to be able to justify and offer enough value to justify a price increase. And the other strategy, which I'll talk about, is lead generation, which I touched on earlier, how to identify the time wasters. And lead gen is one of those activities which do or can suck up a lot of our time. So, how do we track and measure some of these activities that we do on a daily or weekly basis, and learn to, well, first of all, identify what they are, and secondly, to recognize that we need to change the way we do these activities, or even to ditch some of these activities that are sucking up a lot of our time if we're not able to delegate, if they're not worth delegating. How do we actually ditch or tweak some of these activities that we do? I'm afraid Shilpa is not here. She's still having some technical glitches. But what I'll do is I just wanted to share with you the focus group session. If you're interested in joining us in our focus group session, we'd love for you to come. The venue is going to be at the Small Business Research and Enterprise Center, and that's a center formerly known as City Business Library. To some of you who may be familiar with that venue, and it's a couple of minutes away from Bank Tube Station. So we're going to have our focus group where we'll be discussing some of these strategies, the 8 strategies for business growth, which we'll be discussing in the 3-hour focus group session, and it runs from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Small Business Research and Enterprise Center. So if you'd like to join us, then we'd love for you to join us. If you can, you just need to get more details, just scan the QR code, and the QR code on the top left of here, and that should take you to a registration page to our focus group session. So we hope you can join us there. If you do have any questions, then either send Shilpa or myself a DM on LinkedIn. We're always there on LinkedIn. Um, we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you for joining us, and bye for now.